Hello everybody. Today we are in the DSMZ. We are here with Amber. Thanks that you take your time to give us a short interview on the micro project and your involvement. So let's start right away. That you give a short introduction, who you are, where you're from, maybe your background, how you developed in your scientific career to get into this position here.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Andreas. My name is Amber Hartman Scholz. I'm the head of the Science Policy and Internationalization Department here at the DSMZ. I have sort of an interesting scientific career. I am a microbiologist by training, so I studied at the Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore in the United States. I was born in the United States in South Florida, and I finished my PhD at the University of California at Davis because my PhD advisor, Jonathan Eisen, had taken a new faculty position there. So I got a little bit of the East Coast, West Coast. But I actually went to graduate school knowing that I wanted to work at the intersection of science and government in this field called science policy. And so for me, the PhD was really about getting the technical expertise in a scientific field, and then in a second step in my postdoc and beyond, really working in the policy field, understanding how government works, how governments use science, and how scientists are sort of governed by what the rules the policymakers make. And so I worked in the California state government for a few years, and then in the US federal government at the National Institutes of Health, and then in the Obama administration at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And then when we started a family, I moved to Germany, to my husband's hometown here in Braunschweig. And because I had met Jörg Obermann, our scientific director here at the DSMZ, I reached out to him when I first moved here, and that was a decade ago. And what turned into a cup of coffee became a next career step here at the DSMZ.
Within your work at DSMZ, you also came into our micro project, so maybe you can a little bit elaborate what are you doing in microbe?
Yeah, exactly. Why did a weird science policy person come into a microbiome project? And the answer is really simple, because policy and a number of regulatory decisions affect microbiologists. In particular, my field of work right now is in the United Nations rules for biodiversity, as well as for how to handle pathogens. And in particular, there's a field called access and benefit sharing, in which countries of the world have said, before you use biodiversity, including microbial biodiversity, you have to ask permission to be able to use that. And this is regulated under something called the Nagoya Protocol, which basically establishes the rules for the asking permission and then agreeing to the further procedures, and making sure that countries that provided access to biodiversity also have something back from that biodiversity. And when Jorgen and other founding members of the Microbe Consortium first started talking about the different organization of the work, when it comes to biobanking, making sure that the resources that we provide to science, to the world, also means making sure that they're regulatorily compliant. And so we work with a number of partners in the Microbe Consortium to help biobanking people make sure that those samples, that material, that those complex consortia are also compatible with the international policy regimes that govern them. And there's actually a number of different instruments that are work, but to make a complex field narrowed down, it is essential for microbiologists to actually understand the rules that govern the material they're using, and also in the future, before they start field campaigns, before they access material from a biobank, to have a better visual or mental image about the rules they need to follow.
Okay, thanks very much. I think you already answered also my next question, why microbe is so important is for you and the team. So let's move on to the next question. What do you expect in, let's say, 3 years, 5 years for yourself, also for your personal development after the micro project and the results from the micro project?
Yeah, the micro project is at an interesting point in time, both in terms of scientific developments as well as the policy developments. And I think that's what makes it very interesting for the scientific community, is because it offers a number of different aspects at the specific decision points and opportunities for the scientific world that are really current. And so, just to take an example of that, the parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity decided last October to set up a new multilateral mechanism for digital sequence information. And that's a really big step in a new direction away from this bilateral system in which, when a microbiologist goes into the field, let's say in Peru, they have to go to Peru, they have to ask permission, can I take this biological sample, and if so, under what conditions, and what are the things that I share back that I do with that country, with Peru in this example. Now, with this new mechanism, we are developing a multilateral system in which, for genetic data, so for example, data that comes from a complex microbiome, a large metagenome, for example, can be handled under one set of international rules, and the data can be made open and public and interconnected with those samples that might have been accessed under the Nagoya Protocol. And so this is a really exciting time to be working in this field of science policy, where the direction of travel for the science is bigger and more and faster sequencing, and the direction of travel for the policy field that is adjacent to this is to make things more simple, more overarching, more comprehensive. And so the really neat thing about working in the science policy field, and particularly in this project, is to sort of translate, on the one hand, these new policy decisions into the scientific consortia, and to write papers together with the microbial community and the microbe consortium to tell the scientific community these are the new policy decisions. On the other hand, to take what's being done in microbe, the MOC consortia, the new advanced understanding of the interaction of complex partners in mixed communities, and translate that back to the policymakers and say, look, the new rules you make, they have to be compatible with the way that the science is being done, and they need to address all of these very complex if this, then this sort of situations. And so in the 3 to 5 year timeline, I imagine that these examples from the microbe community, our real life case studies, are sort of in the minds of policymakers, the reasons, or some of the arguments for why they make the decisions that they will make in the upcoming years. And vice versa, the new systems that are being set up in the policy world will inform how we do biobanking and how we do genome sequencing in the future, hopefully in a more productive and a more efficient way.
Thank you. So I assume you have another life also than working here at the DSMZ. So
One can hope.
maybe you can give a short intake. What are you doing if not working for Microbe and DSMZ?
Yeah, I do work a lot. I wish I worked less, but I am really blessed to have 2 very cool children and a husband. So most of my free time goes to that right now. I do think my personal hobbies are a bit neglected, but the kids are getting older now. They're 8 and 12, and really one of our favorite pastimes on the weekends is that we love to go hiking together. So we will go off into the Hartz Mountains, where our meeting is going to be held over the next few days. And really, as they get bigger and stronger, tackling more and more kilometers and more steepness. And where you're from, Andreas, going up even on vacation, then into the Alps and really tackling some fun things. We've noticed with the kids, actually the worst hikes that we can do are the easy ones, where they're just boring forest roads, because then they ask, "Are we there yet? Do you have any snacks?" But it's really the steep technical climbs where everybody's worried they're going to fall over the edge of the mountain, that they're having fun, and that we're all really enjoying our time together.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yes, you're right. The kids need the action.
They need the action.
Yeah. I think that's the same like we need also these challenges in the project and so on. So
exactly.
It would be, if it would be a flat path, would be boring.
Exactly
the
right.
So
that's a perfect analogy. Yeah.
Thanks very much for your time and your words. So wish you all the best for the project implementation, also for yourself, your family, and thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, Andreas.